Okay, so let's get back to it. I got a little lost there, all getting fluffy. You know how it can be, talking this metaphysical, fluffy duffy stuff. So, what it all comes down to is we all need to find the balance. You can't know the positive until you made love with the darkness. Am I right? I'm right. Some of you know it, some of you don't. It's okay, because it's true. Bottom line. So, on that third night of ayahuasca, it was all about me. So we all had to set intentions of what we wanted out of the ayahuasca. For me, I kept requesting that I wanted to know where my soul has come from and what's my purpose here on earth and how can I help the people, right? So this is where things got a little fantastical and a little seeming too good to be true kind of deal. But let us all remember that the universe gives us messages through symbols. Knowing this now and looking back on what I found out, I know some of this to be true in my heart of hearts, and some of it's a little questionable. So let me share with you my story of how my soul was born, okay? So this is what ayahuasca showed me. The moon goddess is my mother. The moon goddess had a forbidden love with my father, Casey. Casey is actually my spirit guide, and he has come to me in meditations. And so I knew that he was my father from the beginning, before this experience, right? So moon goddess mother and my father Casey got together. The moon goddess was forbidden to have relationships and fall in love. Well, she did, unfortunately. And the higher authorities, the gods, whatever the situation was at the time of my soul's creation, they were not happy with my parents falling in love. And unfortunately, my father, Casey, was burned at the stake in front of my mother, the moon goddess. But I was there. I was already growing inside my mother's womb, right? So once I was born, my mother sent me to earth and created the raven to protect me. And the raven is my father, right? And it's funny because the raven is actually my spirit guide. And to see that story play out was a little funny because I had already known that the raven was my spirit guide. Animal spirit guide, excuse me, has been coming to me ever since I was little, before big significant changes take place in my life. And so to see that my father, who is my spirit guide, was transformed into the raven, who is my spirit animal, to come down and protect me and watch over me as my soul progresses over time on planet Earth, was kind of awesome and humbling and all of that good stuff, good mojo in your heart. And so my father came down to watch over me on the earth plane as my soul progresses over time, because, you know, most of us, I believe, and I'm pretty positive this is true, we all come back here over and over and over again until we fulfill our missions, until we awaken to our highest selves, our highest truth, and fully connect with our soul, right? So I've been told over and over again that this is my final life here on earth, and my mission, right, needs to be fulfilled because it's my final life. And ever since I was young, I have always felt this deep desire to save the world. But I've always been at a loss. Well, how the hell is little old me going to save the whole entire world? Like, what the heck? And as I've gotten older, this feeling has become very urgent. Like, I need to fulfill my mission, but how on earth am I going to fulfill this mission, right? And as I had mentioned in my first video, when I was talking to my mom one time, my higher self chimed in and said, hey, Samantha, you are supposed to work with people and help them reach their highest self, right? Awaken their consciousness. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty big job. How am I going to do that if I myself have not fully awakened and become an enlightened soul, right? Well, of course, everything happens in sequence, and this is all a journey, right? So looking back, of course, I'm silly because I can't just waking up and be like, okay, now I can go help people. And there's sequences of events, I think, especially for me, that need to play out for me to reach that point. But ayahuasca also told me, right, that I am going to be receiving some pretty awesome powers, and those powers are going to help me serve the people. And that's my purpose, is to serve the people and be selfless. And it's funny now to have experienced that and then look back on my life, especially my young life as a child, because my mom was handicapped and I stayed home with her and I helped her. I was there by her side when she was learning how to crawl, when she was learning how to walk. I slept by her side nonstop. I have always been that caregiver and that healer. And so putting that together with how I'm feeling now and what the ayahuasca showed me, it all comes full circle. There's that circle again. We all experience times in our lives where we stray so far off of our path of, what our end goal is, that we lose sight of who we are as people and what our purpose is, and that fulfillment that we need to experience. For me, that was my teenage years when I went hog wild, and there was still part of me that was my true self, but there was also some other stuff that I did to my body, and I openly let other people do to my body that, wasn't necessarily beneficial for me at the time, or even later on in life, having to live with those decisions that I had made. But looking back, those, of course, were fundamental for my soul's progress. And having that perspective, being able to look back and have that perspective on your whole life, that's a really big gift. And after going through the ayahuasca, that's kind of how I felt, like, okay, everything has happened for a reason. And I've always known that everything happens for a reason. It's what has been able, what has made me be able to accept the happenings of my past, and really any situation that's come to me that has made me uncomfortable or fearful or has produced any negative emotions at all, is that everything happens for a reason. Even though in that moment we might not be able to see or justify what this reason is, there is a reason. Like, the universe provides us with these experiences for a reason. And if you can be able to have that perspective on it, you're going to be able to get through it a lot quicker, a lot more gracefully, and with an open heart. So I encourage you all to kind of just step back and reflect on who were you as a child, right? What were the things that you did? What defined you in your childhood? Who were you? Because who you were, as a child is who you really are and who you are destined to be here. And it's going to play into what your mission is here on earth, because we all have a mission, right? Like I've stated before, some of our missions are on a personal level, and some of our missions are on a much larger scale. So think back to your hobbies, your interests, and what you did as a child, and try to apply that back to where you are currently, and look at what you feel is holding you back now, and please try and gain some perspective, because as painful as these situations are that all of us go through, they're necessary and they ground you. That was another thing that I learned. All of my horrible experiences make me be able to be a grounded individual here on earth. They bring me back to being human, because in the end, right now, all of our souls are human. We're human. And it's really tough to be human sometimes. These things that we have to do that we don't want to do, these paradigms, these societies that we live in, the things that, we feel trapped by. I don't know where I was going with that, but we often as human beings feel trapped here, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I know that even now, as I'm still spiritually evolving, I feel trapped sometimes. And it's not fair to myself or any of ourselves to let society make us feel that way, because the reality is we're not trapped. We can make conscious choices to unlock ourselves from the box that society has created for all of us, because that's not who or what we really are. We are all-encompassing, beautiful, beautiful souls that need to grab one another's hands and realize that we're all here together and we can all make a difference together. Even though we're all on our own paths and our own journeys, we're all supposed to be doing this together. So I hope that all of you, after watching my 2 series videos right now, can at least take away from my own experience that I had and try to reflect back and get a little perspective on who you are and where you've come from and where you're going, because we all need that perspective sometimes. Just step back and reflect and know that you really aren't alone. We're all here. We're all in this together. Even though we are all alone in our brains up here, we're all connected to one another. So there you go. Love and light, right? Live with it. Let your light shine, and do not be afraid to let your light shine, because that's kind of always what I've been afraid of is, whoa, I need to tone it down a little bit. I'm a little too excited. I'm a little too bubbly. I might be annoying to some, but you know what? That's me. That's what I have to offer is my light. So do not let the narrow-mindedness and uncomfortableness of others damper who you are as an individual, because you're exactly who you're supposed to be. All right? Lots of love.